So the Russian Federation might just be starting to collapse after nearly a year of the war in Ukraine, which saw Russia expending huge amounts of military equipment and personnel, as well as economic and political capital, maintaining this war effort, trying to capture and hold on to territory in Ukraine. They have been slowing down. They are starting to get exhausted trying to maintain this war effort, and it's been largely unsuccessful. They have been able to capture and hold on to some territory within the east part of Ukraine, which has already been controlled by Russian puppets for years prior to that. Russia is starting to look kind of weak, you know. Russia used to be feared, especially after its invasion of Crimea in 2014. Their ability, their willingness to use violence to annex neighboring territory with the hard power that they rely on so much has caused a lot of people to fear Russia, to fear that they may use their conventional or even nuclear warfare to hold on to territory and control people. But now, after many unsuccessful military ventures in Ukraine, they're seen as more of a paper tiger now, and the whole world has seen the state of their military, the state of their equipment, their military readiness and ability to actually conduct military campaigns, which is very lacking in many ways. We can get into that later, right? But a lot of people are starting to break with Russia, and some within the Russian Federation are even calling for independence, because the Russian Federation is a huge entity. So yeah, this is a map of the Russian Federation. When we think of Russia, we think of like Moscow, which is right here in like the west part, because that's like the closest to the rest of Europe. But like there's this huge territory. Like Russia is the biggest country on the planet, right? And it's kind of weird how like their territory extends so far east, all the way to like touching Korea and Japan over here, right? So Chechnya is way down here, and that's the territory in question today. So the Prime Minister of Poland says Chechnya deserves independence from the Russian Federation, and they say some parts of Russia are prisons for other peoples. They could become free. For example, Chechnya. So yeah, a lot of these other places within the Russian Federation, they are not Russian people. They, as we think of them, right? They're not like Eastern European. They're not white, certainly. They're more like probably Asian over here. Over here they're white, they're Eastern European, but like over here certainly they live under the boots of Russian tyranny. So the way I understand the Russian sphere of influence, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, they still had a sphere of influence. Chechnya is within the current Russian Federation, but even outside the Russian Federation, they still had a lot of territories. So for example, yeah, Syria, Kazakhstan, Belarus. Of course, Belarus is literally below Russia. It's been a pawn of Russia from the very start. It's been like one of the few allies that Russia had in its invasion of Ukraine, because Belarus also shares a border with Ukraine. Yeah, Belarus literally means below Russia. It's below Russia in a geographic sense and a political sense. It is basically a puppet state. Dagestan, Dojistan, Tajikistan, Azerbaijan, Moldova, and the Kurosawa Islands. think Kurosawa Islands are more of like a territory, right? So this is something I recently learned about. Tajikistan and all these are like separate countries. Yeah, they're within the Russian sphere of influence. They sort of like live under like the fear of like a Russian invasion or like or use of like Russia's hard power. Russia has been relying on its like on its hard power, on its ability to like threaten military action, to threaten people into submission, basically, right? But now Russia is seen more as a paper tiger, and since it expended a lot of its conventional warfare uh, capital within Ukraine, it's like they can't really threaten anyone else. They still have nukes, of course, and we've talked about the nukes, the nuclear situation, right? I wouldn't be surprised if their nuclear arsenal was as poorly maintained, if not more so, than their conventional military, because of course you would think that they would prioritize having enough bullets to fight a war and rifles to fire the bullets than they would prioritize like maintaining their nuclear arsenal, which they have not gotten any more nukes since at least 1990, right, when they collapsed from building too many nukes. By the way, that's what bankrupted them. That's what bankrupted them, is just building too many nukes, which is, yeah, their own damn fault. This is Russian Army Chorus took part in San Remo 2013 Italy music, even though someone is protesting Zelensky speaking at a festival this year. Look at them go. Yeah, look at their LARPy military. Look at their giant hats. Yeah, at least American military isn't isn't like that, right? Look at them. So apparently, I'm just learning this, and I just learned this today. The Russian Federation is occupying the Kurosawa Islands, which is a Japanese island. So yeah, Russia and Japan have been fighting. They have fought. They fought one war, the Russo-Japanese War, and Russia took a big L on that one, right? It's a common Russia L, right? Yeah, Russia historically takes a lot of L's. But now, even in Tokyo, there are calls for Russia to relinquish control of some of their territory. The rally is taking place in Tokyo, demanding that Russia return the Japanese islands off the coast of Hokkaido. The first time protesters used the phrase illegally occupied islands, Kyoto News. Japan celebrates Northern Territories Day, so I guess like using the phrase illegally occupied is sort of taboo, kind of like saying Taiwan is its own country, right? Kind of like saying yeah, a lot of people don't want to say that because they don't want to piss off China, right? But now they're not. They're just saying it. Yeah, people are afraid of China, but not so much Russia anymore. There have been a few nuclear scares within the past like few months because like Russia took so many L's in the war for Ukraine. It's like, are they going to use nukes? Are they actually going to do it? Are they going to use a tactical nuke to try to push back Ukrainian forces? But yeah, that's the only threat that Russia is making that is actually effective. And of course, like Russia threatens to nuke people all the time, right? It's basically the only thing they got now that they their conventional military is not in great shape, right? So even in here, we have some Russia simps, some Russia apologists. People who strive for conflict and support various actions of this type, whether from the West or from Russia, do not understand they're only winding up the spiral of hatred, and when the war breaks out, really see what it leads to. Well, it seems like Russia are the ones who are like causing the conflict here. They are the ones who are occupying foreign territories, and they don't seem to be able to like just not do that, right? It's like Russian culture at this point, right? Like it's basically just it's tradition for them to like invade territories, right, and just hold on to them. Yeah, you're actually being Russophobic if you're being very intolerant of Russian culture and tradition if you don't think that they should invade. It's very problematic of you, sweetie. Meanwhile, in Chechnya, there's that looks like fun. There's living it up. Oh, they're going. Oh wow, they're spinning really fast. So, yeah, Russia has been like this for a pretty long time. Like, people have said that like Russia is still behaving as if it's in the 19th century, right? This is what this person is saying. If you read stories of Russian crimes in Chechnya, Georgia, Syria, and now Ukraine, I think it's obvious that's not only Putin. Russians have always been like this, only the world didn't pay attention to. I mean, I think a lot of people have been paying attention to the state of Russian politics for a while, right? But just now a lot of people are becoming aware of it because of the war in Ukraine, right? Interesting how they do not capitalize Russian even when it's the beginning of a sentence. So disrespectful. Wow. Honestly, nobody respects Russia, right? That's why I don't have any hopes for the current Russian opposition or any change in Russia when Putin will die / will be replaced. Yeah, he will be replaced. We will remove Putin by suicide by 2 bullets to back of head. Yes. He will be removal by defenestration. He will be removed from building. Yeah, that's what will happen when Putin actually gives the order to launch nukes. Yeah, hopefully it'll be like a Donald Trump situation where it's like the actual adults in the room will have to be like, sir, we can't actually do that. We can't actually launch nuke. Like, because like our country will just be fucking destroyed if we do launch nukes. Like, it'll be over, right? Then we'll be in the end game and Russia just can't handle that. Just like whenever Trump threatened to do something dumb, like sending the military to crack down on. And yeah, what is the current Russian opposition right now? I mean, like Alexei Navalny. When was that? When was that a thing? Was that in 2021? I mean, the pandemic just like warped our perception of time so much. It's like, I'm pretty sure it happened like pretty recently. I don't remember, but anyways, like Navalny was like a very right-wing person, right? He's very like he's very nationalist, has some ties to like some far-right people, right? So I'm not sure how different Navalny would have been relative to Putin, but the point is that he was a threat to Putin's power. I'm not sure if like he was critical of like Putin like strongman politics or like imperialism. I'd imagine he'd be for that, but apparently, yeah, Putin does not tolerate any opposition of any kind, and arrested Navalny on like BS charges, threw him in prison, and like made him just disappear within the prison system. I haven't heard from him since. Yeah, that's what happens when you go up against Putin, right? You either get sent to the gulags, or you mysteriously just like slip and fall down several flights of stairs, right? You fall down one flight of stairs, you turn around, and then fall down the other flight. Just keep falling downstairs until you're dead, right? Unfortunately, like, Putin is pretty popular within Russia. I mean, it's hard to gauge how exactly popular he is because it's a very authoritarian government. Even if polling can be trusted, like a lot of like polling is probably like, a lot of people are probably afraid to answer the wrong way in polls. It's like, you know, yes, tell us if you like current administration. We greatly appreciate feedback. If anything, it's a good way of like weeding out the opposition. Like the government, if you answer I do not like Putin, then that's basically, that could be signing your death warrant right there, right? But I mean, there are a lot of like nationalist right-wing people in Russia. Of course, there have been protests against the Ukraine war, but they have been brutally cracked down upon, right, by the Russian goon squads they call police. So until Russians admit the crimes they committed, their colonialism, denounce their imperialism, will leave occupied territories, will pay reparations to every country that suffered from their aggression, and will start working on changing their society, nothing will change. Yeah, I mean, they should admit to everything that they've done, admit to like all the genocidal acts that they have undertaken, and you know, stop doing imperialism, stop invading people, stop threatening to nuke people. But I don't know if they can afford reparations, right? They can barely afford to like keep running their own country. I'm afraid if like they were forced to pay reparations by some like international tribunal, then like we will have a World War II scenario, or Germany's, like a Weimar Germany scenario, where it's like Russia is so poor that like they'll turn to fascism just to do a national revival of some kinds, and like try to annex territory. But honestly, that's kind of what they're doing now, right? That's sort of like what happened after the fall of the Soviet Union. After that, like in the early and late 90s, like Russia was doing very badly, right? Basically, like the capitalist robber barons were just like scooping up all the what was left of the economy, the Russian economy, and now it's in the hands of oligarchs. It's basically like hyper capitalist, like even more so than like in America, right? In America we do have a middle class, but like in Russia it's like you're either an oligarch, you're either like under like an oligarch's wing, or you're just dirt poor. So yeah, Russian oligarchs can get pretty wealthy, but like even if all the oligarchs' wealth were seized and like redistributed, probably, I don't know if like Russia could actually make it. Yeah, so they have to work on changing their society. As I said, they do have a big problem with toxic masculinity. I mean, I know how like toxic masculinity sounds like, this fucking liberal, but like it is true, right? Russia has always been like a hyper masculine society, and I'm not sure like how much of its actions can be attributed to like its machismo attitude, just like very aggressive and like using hard power to control others. But I think it's a fair point to make. They got to educate themselves, sweetie. They gotta become less toxic, right? Yeah, we saw in like in the invasion of Ukraine, like they are like orcs basically. They are just like rug brains, just like caveman brains, like barbarians basically, who just like think that they can just use like brute force to achieve their goals, right? So yeah, modern military maneuvers require a lot more than just brute force, right? You gotta have planning, you gotta have logistics, you gotta have like some organization, communication. But Russia does not have like a lot of that, right? As we've seen, they're very bad at like doing these large like movements of for that you kind of need some nerds, right? You kind of need a little bit of autism in there, a little bit of tism, a little bit of autist spice, if you know what I mean, right? To actually get the job done there. But no, it's just all brute force. It's all just like hyper masculine stuff, right? Anyway, Russia will remain a very dangerous, aggressive country that will continue to attack its neighbors and pose a danger to the civilized world, while at the same time lying and whitewashing itself to the Western countries in order to receive financial support business deal. Yeah, I'm not sure how much financial support they're going to receive from Western countries after this. I mean, Russia has allied itself with the West, as we've seen, and basically, like, the whole world has denounced them. Seems like they're still doing business with like China and India, but like even China is like, dude, come on, like can you cool it with like the imperial, like the hard power, less like imperialism? Because China has soft power. China is a little bit smarter, right? If only Russia and China could work together, they could be so great together. Oh, but they're just like they're incompatible for some reason. Because Russia's got the brawn and China's got the brains, right? Only they could work together, but no. Only they could use their soft power and their hard power. But for some reason, that's not possible. So apparently they're doing deals with like North Korea, Russia is. Or they're receiving military aid from North Korea, which is like... It's just sad. Like North Korea is also like a very isolationist country, and Russia has essentially isolated itself from the rest of the world. Again, like India and China are very big countries, but I think even India is like trying to kind of cool it with like all this invasion and like threatening to nuke people stuff. It's very bad for business, right? It's not a good look, sweetie. Not a good look, right? Anyways, yeah, I'm not sure if it can whitewash itself after all the stuff it's done in you, right? Anyways, in conclusion, yeah, what is to be done about Russia, right? I just do not know. I mean, it would be great if the Russian Federation actually dissolved. But of course, the big question is who gets the nukes. And if only Russia did not have nukes, like, I guess we can't take away their nukes. We couldn't have taken away their nukes when the Soviet Union. That would have been too big of an ask, because like the nukes are like the one big thing it has, right? That's why it constantly threatens to nuke people, because again, of like its toxic masculinity to threaten to nuke people. It's very toxic of you, sweetie, right? But yeah, it's a bad habit. They gotta they rely too much on their like hard power, their military actions, their military might, which has been greatly diminished by their war in Ukraine. So they do have to change their culture, change their society, and really, you know, invest in their economy, right? Like we make this criticism of like America all the time. Like we spend so much money on the military. We could be putting that money into healthcare or education or infrastructure. I think education and infrastructure actually might be the most important in terms of like growing an economy, right? Getting an educated workforce, not educating them in how to like be brutes for the military to descend into battle, but actually productive workers actually develop themselves as human beings, right? And achieve their full potential. And then actually build their economy that's not based on imperialist expansion, right? Actually build something, actually make something of yourself, Russia, please. Like, Russia does have so much potential, just like a lot of other countries do. Like, only if they could, like, just get over themselves and just stop being so violent and spending so much of their budget on their military. I mean, again, like, America is bad, but Russia is so much worse than America. Russia makes America look good in this regard, right? Yeah, I used to be like a lefty who like was the biggest critic of America, but that's because I lived in America and that's what was closest to me, right? I was ignorant of just how bad the rest of the world is. Like if you think like America is the most racist country in the world, like you don't know about other countries, okay? You do not know. That's how racist Asian people are, for example. And unironically, like Russia's has a racism problem too. They say Russia doesn't have a racism problem. It doesn't have like institutional racism the same way like America does. That's because they don't have minorities in Russia. At least like not the same way we do. Because again, like they're racist. Like at least like the western part of Russia around Moscow is like very ethnically not diverse. And oh my god, does it have a sexism problem? Oh, I'm serious when I talk about toxic masculinity, right? They do not treat women well at all in Russia, right? Remember Pussy Riot? That was a big deal back in the day because the feminist movement in Russia has to be like very militant and violent, and it's hardcore over there in Russian feminist circles. So keep fighting the good fight, Russians. Again, I don't hate any group of people, like any demographic of people. Again, except for like I guess Russian nationalists and Russian like chauvinists. But like I've seen like liberals like resort to like actual Russophobia, like Russians fleeing Russia because they don't want to be drafted or something, or they don't want to live in like this isolationist militarist state. They're like, oh, don't let those Russians in here, like they're going to be just as violent, they could be spies, right? And it's like, you're missing the point, guys. You're missing the whole point of this. The point of this is that like it's the Russian state that is like using its people and oppressing its people. Even a lot of people that are bad within Russia are like victims in a way of Russian propaganda, right? So hopefully one day you know, we can all educate ourselves and be less toxic, right? We're gonna be less toxic together, guys. We're gonna make it. So yeah, things will get better. Things may get worse before they get better, but they will get better. Okay? Trust in the plan. Do not succumb to doomerism and pessimism. So stay positive, guys. Goodbye.